You have either created your reality or you have allowed it. And this dynamic, look, remember we said fear is the greatest dynamic of motivation? What was the fear that pushed America over the edge, except for 9/11?
Yes, that was a big turning point, and we reacted from that.
Right.
We reacted in
We reacted as an adolescent would react.
Right. And went into...
And that was the opportunity, dear ones. You know, that was the opportunity that you as a species faced at that time. Now, thankfully, you don't have to always get it right the first time, because the opportunity keeps coming around and presenting itself. And we would suggest to you that you are energetically at a very similar time as you were right before 9/11. And between, you know, what it's an 18-and-a-half-year cycle, and you're into the half year. September, October, November, December, January, February, March.
Right. So we could see an opportunity, a large opportunity, coming around again between now and March.
We used to call it, you know, kind of Ezekiels Wheel, you know, where your reality has you looking at a certain frame of reality one at a time. And in these frames of reality, you get the opportunity to face certain, what shall we say, crossroads, now and again. And it's a kind of a soul dynamic. You have choice in that.
Sure.
You know, you can either face the energy, or you can ignore it or distract from it or do any number of other things and send it spinning around so that you're not dealing with it in the moment. But that doesn't mean it goes away. The problem is that it comes back on you after a certain period of time, depending on what your personal cycle is. And the problem is that it always speaks to you more loudly the first time.
Or the next time.
The next time, yes. So the dynamic ultimately is that your soul tries to speak to you originally with elegance, with grace, with subtlety. But if you don't listen, then next time it's got to speak to you a little louder, and then a little louder, and then a little louder. And then the problem ultimately is that your soul will back you up the side of the head with a baseball bat to get your attention if that's the only way to do it. Why? Because you have chosen to take a journey, a soul's journey. So those repetitive dynamics that each of you as individuals are facing are part of your life lesson, part of the energy, the emotion. You came here to transcend, to transform while you were in this lifetime.
And so when the opportunity comes around to do that, if we don't take the opportunity, it's just going to go away and travel around and come back in our faces, and, as you say, a little more loudly each time.
Well, you'd like to say it a little more loudly, but, you know, it depends on how many times you've done it. Maybe it's screaming at you by now. We know a lot of people that their realities are screaming at them. Why? Because coincidentally, all of humanity's reality is screaming at them.
Right.
Well, you know, this is a duality, so there are two forces at play here, or more. There are those forces that are seeking to unite you, and then there are those forces that are seeking to divide you. Now, please understand something. The dynamic of community is not necessarily one of socialism, right? The dynamic of community does allow for individuality. And in fact, if you understand the basic nature of humanity's journey, you started out with a dynamic of a collective awareness, a collective consciousness that's separated into individual journeys of awareness. So you would have started perhaps some of your earlier human lifetimes in more primitive forms, and through the dynamics of the experience of those realities come to more complex and more evolved and more transformed and more understandable situations, so that now, as you're reaching into the 21st century as a species and as a consciousness, you are transcending and being able to transcend the dynamics of regular reality creation that has existed simply through your own auspices. We mean your own physical bodies. It is very soon that you will be developing certain dynamics of electronic awareness that's going to allow you all to transcend certain levels of ignorance.
What? Are we talking about some sort of melding of AI and human consciousness?
What's wrong with heart-centered artificial intelligence?
As long as it's heart-centered, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Well, is it time to consider that possibility? Look at all the mundane things that exist in your world.
Oh, there's a lot.
Well, most of that can be automated.
Right.
The whole dynamics of electricity, the whole dynamics of, the things that you all rely upon.
Mm-hmm.
Artificial intelligence could do the supply chain much more efficiently.
Sure, that we have.
Well, wait a minute. Then there'd be no jobs. Then what would you do if there were no jobs?
Well,
but all these machines are doing the things that make the money.
Well, what if money isn't a factor?
Well, what if it wasn't? What if?
Imagine there were no religions, there were no possessions.
Sounds like our theme song. John.
Thank you, John. To be able to imagine that, then we say, what is our value? What is our worth?
Well, again, maybe you can explore at that point what it really means to be a human being. The point of the whole journey was that in the beginning, back in the gardeny days, you had a collective consciousness. In other words, you had a collective relationship with the divine. But just as every child moves and grows, so too as a species did you move and grow. Just as every child needs to enter the dynamic of an adolescence and separate from the mother and the father in order to gain an identity, develop an identity of their own, so too it was necessary for you to separate from each other, from nature and spirit, in order to develop a long journey, millions of years. A journey that has taken you to a place where you are right now, which is, believe it or not, that each and every one of you has the ability to have an individual relationship with the divine. And we would suggest that was the purpose of the journey in the first place. Now, hold on. From the knowledge gained on that journey, one would say that it is the next logical, reasonable, understandable step in when you're understanding the metaphor of human growth, because the metaphor of your physical body's growth and demise is the same as the collective growth and demise. In other words, things are always being pushed to become more, to get better, to become more efficient, to become more loving, to become more understanding, to take more responsibility for your reality. And so this long journey of individuation, while it has taken you to this place of what we like to call the sacred I am, has led you to a place of where you, each and every one of you, if you look within your hearts, you'll find that spark of love, that spark of energy that connects you all to each other and to the divine as well.
Right, because it is the same connection, even though we're individuals. The connection to the divine is the same.
Correct.
It could be a huge reuniting factor once realized.
Well, but that's what's going on here. That's what's being asked of each and every one of you.
To realize we're the same but different.
Yeah, there are two extremes of the same energy. You've got to take the most LGBTQRST person on one end of the spectrum and the biggest, most, what shall we say, linear thinking redneck on the other. And in fact, there's truth and there's lies in both extremes of existence.
But their heart-centered connection to the divine is the same. So this seems to be the potentially uniting factor.
Oh, united we stand, divided we fall. Well, that's the truth, dear ones. That's the truth.
Imagine all the people shouting all the world. Ooh, you may say I'm a dreamer, but